Imagine this. You're standing in the blazing sun of ancient Greece, thousands of years ago. Thousands of people are packed into the stands, cheering wildly. Out on the field, a group of athletes takes off running, completely naked. No shorts, no tops, nothing. Their bodies are oiled up, muscles flexing, and nobody's shocked. Nobody's covering their eyes. This wasn't some hidden ritual. This was the Olympics, one of the biggest, most respected events in the entire ancient world. So why were the Greeks totally cool with athletes competing buck naked, while today most of us would rather die than be seen without clothes in public? What does that say about them, and what does it say about us? Stick around, because this story goes way deeper than you think, and by the end, it might just change the way you look at your own body. We live in a world where clothes aren't just about staying warm or covering up. They're like armor. They hide the parts we don't like, they show off our status, and they protect us from all the judgment out there. But if you go back to ancient Greece, Rome, Egypt, and a bunch of other early civilizations, being naked wasn't weird or embarrassing. It was just normal. Sometimes it was even celebrated. Figuring out why they didn't fear nudity tells us a ton about human psychology, culture, and how we've changed over the centuries. Let's start in ancient Greece, because that's where this whole idea really shines. Back around the 8th century BC and for hundreds of years after, the naked male body wasn't something to hide. It was the gold standard of beauty, strength, and even godlike perfection. They had a word for it. Gymnos, which literally means naked. That's where we get gymnasium from. These weren't just workout rooms. They were places where guys trained completely naked for sports, philosophy, and life. Picture young men, teenagers to grown adults, wrestling, sprinting, throwing the discus, all without a single piece of clothing. Sure, part of it was practical. It was hot, and clothes would just get in the way during tough training. But it went so much deeper than that. To the Greeks, the human body was a masterpiece. It wasn't sinful. It was sacred. Their gods, like Apollo or Hercules, were shown as these perfect, muscular nudes. The body represented balance, mind, spirit, and physical power all working together. One of the coolest stories is about the Olympics. Around 720 BC, this runner named Orsippus supposedly ditched his loincloth right in the middle of a race and still won. After that, competing naked became the rule. It was a point of pride. Greeks saw it as proof they were more advanced than the barbarians, who kept themselves covered up. Even Spartan women trained with very little on, which shocked the rest of Greece, but it showed how serious they were about building strong bodies for everyone. And this wasn't limited to sports. Greek art, those famous vases, sculptures, and wall paintings, was full of naked figures. A naked warrior wasn't seen as weak or exposed. He was heroic. Artists paid attention to every detail. They usually showed ideal male bodies with modest, controlled features to symbolize discipline and self-control. It was all about harmony and mastery. Now you're probably wondering about the women. Greek society was pretty male-focused, so full public nudity for women was rarer. It usually happened in specific rituals or art. But goddesses like Aphrodite started getting shown nude later on, celebrating beauty and fertility. The emphasis on the male form really reflected their values around citizenship, athletics, and the ideal soldier. When you move over to ancient Rome, things get a little different. The Romans loved Greek ideas, but they put their own spin on them. You probably wouldn't see respectable Roman citizens walking around the Forum naked. That would be too much. But in the public baths, these huge social centers, nudity was completely normal. People of all classes would bathe, exercise, and chat together without clothes. It was about cleanliness, health, and just hanging out as humans. Slaves and workers often did their jobs with minimal clothing because of the heat and the physical labor. Roman art took the heroic nudity thing and ran with it too. Emperors got statues made showing them as gods or powerful warriors, often naked to show strength and divine status. At the same time, Romans could be a bit more reserved than Greeks in everyday life. One old writer even said that letting citizens see each other naked in public was the beginning of moral decline. So there was always this balance. Let's not skip over ancient Egypt, one of the oldest civilizations out there. Along the Nile, people were way more relaxed about the body. Kids ran around naked or barely dressed all the time. Farmers and fishermen working in the brutal heat often wore almost nothing. It wasn't shameful. It was just practical. In their art, nudity could show youth, fertility, or lower social status, but even pharaohs and gods appeared in revealing outfits when it fit the symbolism. Women are shown topless in tons of paintings, and it didn't carry the heavy guilt we might expect today. In that hot climate, clothes were sometimes more trouble than they were worth. Other ancient cultures had their own takes. In parts of ancient India, holy men and ascetics embraced nudity as a way to reject material stuff and focus on the spirit. You still see sadhus doing this today. Mesopotamia used nudity in art for fertility symbols or to show vulnerability. China tended to prefer more coverage, seeing too much skin as undignified. So it wasn't the same everywhere, but a lot of early societies didn't connect nudity with the deep moral shame that came later in the West. So what made the difference? Let's talk psychology and history for a second. For most of human existence, people didn't wear much clothing at all, especially in warm places. Hunter-gatherers often went naked or close to it. The shame we feel about being seen without clothes? That's mostly learned from culture, not hardwired into us. In Greece, the body was like a temple. Perfecting it was part of becoming a better person. Training naked in the gymnasium stripped away social differences. No fancy clothes to show who was rich. It created real equality and trust among citizens. Modern studies on social nudity back this up. When people try it in safe settings, they often feel less anxious, more accepting of their bodies, and more connected to others. Dropping the physical barriers drops some mental ones too. Compare that to how clothes became huge status symbols later on. The more elaborate your outfit, the higher your rank. Nudity could signal poverty. But the Greeks flipped it. The elite chose to compete naked to prove they were above all that superficial stuff. Religion was massive here too. Early pagan faiths celebrated the body and nature. Gods were physical and real. But when Christianity spread, the story of Adam and Eve getting ashamed after eating the fruit changed everything. The body became tied to sin and weakness. Medieval Europe covered up big time, and that attitude shaped a lot of the modern world's discomfort with nudity. Ancient people didn't have that same framework. To them, the body was natural and capable of greatness. Even Hesiod, this old Greek writer, advised farmers to plow naked to honor the earth goddess. It was spiritual and practical at the same time. Here's something wild. The Greeks actually thought wearing clothes when you didn't need to was kind of soft or barbarian. Going naked showed confidence and civilization. They made fun of Persians and others who stayed covered up. Nudity was their cultural power move. Think about that today. We drop serious money on clothes, diets, gym memberships, and filters trying to look perfect. Meanwhile, those ancient athletes stood there oiled up and exposed, imperfections and all, in front of huge crowds. No shame. Just pure human effort. But that's not even the craziest part. Nudity played roles in rituals and rites of passage too. Being stripped bare could mean starting fresh, equality before the gods, or showing strength through vulnerability. In art and tombs, the naked form captured life force and vitality. This comfort with the body influenced later periods too. During the Renaissance, artists rediscovered those Greek ideals and created works like Michelangelo's David, this massive, confident nude figure. Even then, people argued about it, but the pull was strong. What if our modern fear of nudity says more about us than it did about them? We're constantly comparing ourselves on social media, where every body is curated and edited. Ancient folks lived closer to real physical life, hard work, sports, communal bathing. They saw all kinds of bodies every day without the filtered illusions we deal with. Psychologists say familiarity kills shame. When nudity feels normal in the right context, people feel freer and kinder toward themselves and others. And this is where it gets really interesting. Their acceptance wasn't some wild free-for-all. Context was everything. Naked in the gym? Empowering. Naked at the wrong time? Still not okay. They had rules and norms around it. It was purposeful, not chaotic. The big revelation here is that ancient civilizations didn't fear nudity because they saw the body as part of who we are, beautiful, functional, and even divine. They didn't split the physical from the spiritual the way some later traditions did. That created a healthier, more grounded relationship with being human. We probably won't bring back naked Olympics anytime soon, but there's still a lesson for us. Our hang-ups about bodies are cultural, not some unbreakable rule. What if getting even a little more comfortable in our own skin could cut down on all the anxiety and comparison we carry around? Next time you feel that urge to hide, remember those Greek runners charging across the field under the open sky, unashamed, powerful, fully alive. Maybe the real question isn't why they were so comfortable being naked. It's why we become so afraid, and what we could gain if we let go of some of that fear. The human story has so many surprising chapters, but this one shows how we've added layer after layer to something as basic as our own skin. Our bodies have carried us through everything: triumphs, struggles, everyday life. Maybe rediscovering a bit of that ancient ease could make us all a little freer. What do you think? Could we start seeing ourselves the way they did? It might begin the next time you look in the mirror.